Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, our guest is Robin Rose, MD. She is a holistic family medicine physician and an innovator in regenerative and preventive medicine. And currently, she is the creator of a new kidney paradigm called RENOLOGY, the art and clinical science of kidney success. Dr. Rose began in medicine in 1970 when she shadowed an MD while living in a fishing village in India. By the end of the 1970s, she studied plant-based medicine and veggie cooking, serving communities in New Jersey, later working for $2 an hour as a nursing assistant in rural Middle Tennessee County Hospital. In 1981, she graduated with honors from the University of Tennessee Health Science Center with a BSN RN with a PNP certification. She completed graduate MSN FNP program at the University of Missouri at Columbia in 1984. After a brief stint in Northern Arizona private primary care practice, she realized the urgent need to learn more in order to provide the kind of precision primary care that she wanted to offer. So, with an arduous commitment, she completed pre med requirements while attending as an FMP at rural indigenous clinics. In August of 1986, she enrolled at the University of Arizona College of Medicine, completing the course of study in only 5 years. During that time, she had the honor of serving as a medical student board member of the American Holistic Medical Association, while also attending massage school classes and enjoying the mentorship of Andrew Wild, MD. The experience was unique as she began to evolve agility by including complementary offerings to a manifest, a holistic medical education, classes with herbalists, extracurricular nutrition, and acupuncture study, quality clinical time on the Apache and Papago reservations, and a prolonged rotation in Sri Lanka. After graduating in 1991, she completed 3 years at the renowned UCSF Santa Rosa Family and Community Medical Medicine Residency. The opportunity to deepen the knowledge of conventional medicine was outstanding, yet it was also embellished with an array of clinical knowledge that included botanical medicine, nutritional medicine, homeopathy, osteopathy, and with further study and the practice of Chinese medicine and acupuncture. In 1994, she moved to Ashland, Oregon to serve in a community that embraced the eclectic regenerative and preventive practice that she offered from a charming home office with offerings from standard to creative medical solutions to health challenges, including hospital and house calls, nursing homes, group classes, including Middle Eastern dance offered for women over 40.
Mhm.
After many years and some notable life challenges, Dr. Rose shifted to a smaller office, ultimately taking a sabbatical hiatus after family losses. In time, she enjoyed a move to Hawaii and a new marriage. When Dr. Rose entered the realm of wounded healer, fulfilling personal healing needs became a priority. The evolving new primary care medicine, Renology, was inspired by holistic cellular regenerative and preventive wisdom. In time, she began supporting other physicians, guiding their understanding for achieving kidney success for patients. After discovering the extraordinary world of peptides, and more specifically bioregulator peptides, she wrote a book, Renology Peptides, a comprehensive clinical volume that presents an evidence-based scholarly tool to deepen understanding of regenerative kidney medicine and bioregular peptides. The book teaches us how to positively manifest kidney success by tending to kidney decline as early as possible. Please give a warm welcome to Dr. Robin Rose. Doctor, how are you this evening?
Oh, great. Thank you. What a wonderful welcome.
Did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
You did. It's been a
Great.
long journey. It's interesting to hear it all because that's a half-century story there.
Please tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and employment experiences.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn until I was 9, moved to New Jersey, graduated from high school in 1968. That dates me. A fabulous time to enter into the world. There was so much creativity going on at that time. Went to Syracuse University for all of a year and realized I didn't know what I was doing. Had an offer to travel with a photojournalist as an assistant and went along and ended up living in India. As you said, it was an amazing reclaim of living in the natural world, understanding how people who are still tribal really function in community. And I was really blessed to experience not only the village physician who was generous with me, but also there were sadhus, these holy men who would come and do a lot of the healthcare in the villages. And so I was exposed to this enormous array. Came back to America and just at that point in my life, I was very excited about nutrition and learning that whole realm of how to stay healthy, and was a health food chef in 2 different restaurants. It was enormously fun. Ended up moving to Tennessee and lived in community there. Actually, at first I had 20 acres of tomatoes that I was taking care of, which was another wonderful experience. My nickname was Roma. Just call me tomato sauce. And then I got this job at the hospital, and truly it was $2 an hour. And the irony is, I was studied at night with the orderly. He first became a PA. I went off and I became a nurse practitioner. He ended up going and becoming an ophthalmologist. So we were really studying. We'd look at our patients. It was the night shift, and so if they were sleeping, we didn't have anything to do, and we'd start looking stuff up. Eventually, I did my undergraduate in Memphis as an RN and got certified as a pediatric nurse practitioner. Kept going, went to Columbia, Missouri, became a family nurse practitioner. But what I realized is I really wanted the basic science that medicine had to offer. I mean, the depth is enormous and the difference is really notable. So with with a great deal of sacrifice, I turned around and went to med school and was very lucky because Andrew Weil is brilliant. I mean, he's like Harvard to the nth and remembers everything and is kind of the grandfather of looking at medicine through a different lens, which does not discontinue the conversation of using pharmaceutical medications and surgery, etc., but it adds in the lifestyle. How do you think? How do you live? How do you move? What do you eat? How do you sleep? And I really found that to be exceptional in guiding patients to higher levels of well-being. And sometimes that meant they got better and could get off their pharmaceuticals. And that's always a lovely thing. That's the success that many people want. And so in my practice in Oregon, I was busy. I was, like a spinning top, and traveled a bit, ended up spending time in Mexico, and I went to Poland, I went to Sri Lanka, and just experienced how you can do it through different filters. How can we take care of ourselves and take care of each other in community? And so that's kind of become a big focus for me, that and not excluding spirituality as part of medical care. And so as I got older, I made my practice a little smaller. There was a few karmic hiccups in that. My practice got embezzled, I mention that because I know that the stress of that contributed to my getting sick. And so, you know, lots of story, but I ended up coming to Hawaii and was diagnosed with a renal cell carcinoma, a rare one, but it was an alarming moment for me, obviously. I had a nephrectomy. Gladly, I wanted that thing out. And then basically, upon my 3-month follow-up, found out I was just at the doorway to stage 4, which is severe kidney decline. And I wasn't getting the kind of guidance that I would give myself if I was my own patient, but I came to understand primary care really is not up to exquisite practice with kidney. We've done wonders with the heart. We've done wonders with brain now. Kidneys next. And, I understand that we don't really start paying attention until the GFR, the glomerular filtration rate, is 60. That's, half function is already gone by that time. And even so, a lot of people say, oh, stage 3, don't worry. And those were like the tugs for me to say, oh, wait a minute, where did it start? What do we know that we can deal with subtle changes early? And is it really asymptomatic? I don't think so. And so, sitting in my own space here where I was doing research for myself, I began to talk to other clinicians. I had a Facebook group for kidney patients in stage 3. Some of them actually followed my guidance. Some of them didn't, and many of them have died. And so I know that this is absolutely essential. It's like, do I need to drink Pepsi? Bad idea. I have a lot of things to don't do. It's just like the kidney, if you think about what's the kidney, is this discernment. What do I keep? What do I excrete? That's the wisdom of kidney. And so I came to understand I have to do that for myself. I have to decide what's safe. Am I hydrating enough? Am I eating right? Am I exercising? Am I meditating and getting myself out of the kidney-induced sympathetic nervous system overload? Have I detoxed my life from the chemicals in my house, in my garage, the people who were toxic? And so it became quite a process. And ultimately, the book that I wrote was about the 7th idea of how to write all of this, because it's very complex. Kidney isn't very easy. And what I understand is a lot of primary care doctors are really very simplistic. What's your creatinine? Okay, you're whatever. Not a whole lot of guidance in depth. And it needs to be taught. It needs to be learned. And here we are trying to raise the awareness for all of us, for those of us with kidney disease. There's so much to learn and do to help ourselves. And as clinicians, there is so much to know to guide people to safer harbor.
Okay. Let's talk in detail about your experiences with chronic kidney disease. I read the transcript from your doctor talk with Jen Pilfinger,
Mm-hmm.
and I
Yeah.
understand you were diagnosed with stage 3B or 4 CKD in 2013. You had a spiking blood pressure, 220 over 110. You got a neurovirus. You had a CAT scan that showed renal cell carcinoma. And you mentioned you had a nephrectomy. And when you went back for a 3-month follow up, they told you were on the verge of stage 4.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do after that?
Well, I went home and cried. That was the beginning.
Yeah.
It's a grief, it's like my sense of self changed. That don't worry, you can live with one kidney, no problem, suddenly fizzled. And the nephrologist that I saw basically dismissed it. Ah, don't worry about it. People live for years with what you have. Okay, thank you. And what do I do? What do I eat? Oh, don't worry. So I came home to Hawaii and I sat where I'm sitting now and started looking stuff up, like my potassium is elevated. Gee, they say you're not supposed to have high potassium in stage 3B, but I do. Okay, well, I'm almost at stage 4. Cool. What do I do? Nobody even told me, take bicarbonate. I saw 5 nephrologists. Not one of them told me this. It was members of Facebook kidney groups that told me this, and so I made some massive changes. I mean, I utterly cleaned up the diet. Chronometer.com is a miracle. It's free. It's annoying to do, but it is so well worth it because, the amount of protein that you're eating in kidney disease matters, but who knows? What's a piece of something the size of your palm doesn't mean anything. That's the advice given. And so, there's a formula, zero 0.6 to 0.8 grams per kilo of optimal body weight. So I was way underweight. So I figured out how much protein do I need. I monitored everything I was eating and was able to really fine tune my diet to what I needed. At that time, my potassium was elevated, so I found out what to eat to limit my potassium intake to 1,500 milligrams. Using Chronometer, I could actually do that. And, you know, organic food, I think, matters. Glyphosate and other chemicals in the foods really do harm the kidney tubules, which are the precious discernment tools that we have to survive. Um, I had to deal with the fact that I don't really have a very good thirst. So I kind of make a cartoon out of it. Sleep issues, very important. Um, I'm a night owl. I started working on how to convince myself to go to bed earlier, how to wake up earlier. I started doing intermittent fasting. Um, Dental work, much old dental work with some decline in the status of it. And so I found a biological dentist who really just remodeled my whole mouth. It was not cheap. It was challenging. I had to travel to another island. But we know that inflammation is the killer, basically, with kidney disease. It causes the decline. So I was on the hunt for anything that could induce inflammation and optimized thyroid. Um, I did nutrient testing and found some pretty noticeable deficits and found ways to supplement that. I was advised to explore fermented food because we do know that the kidney gut axis is a very big part in the inflammation that can happen in kidney. And it's interesting because there's this concept called uremic toxins. That means things that for other people might be fine, the person with declined kidney can't tolerate. And there's negative consequences, including that these things can slip out of the gut where you should be excreting, gets through the loosened colon wall, gets to the blood, gets to the kidney, and causes trouble. So we started making fermented foods and started with sauerkraut with less salt. You don't need as much as the commercial. And then started doing things like fermenting eggplant and green beans and mango, and it's part of every meal. It's actually really healthy for most people unless they have really severe histamine issues. And so, it's like my whole life plan was all about getting better from kidney. And I was being told, don't be surprised if you lose 5% a year. And a GFR of 30 is 25%. And I was like, I'm, I'm not going to listen to this. The limbic system hears those things. And funny thing, the body reacts to it. And so a lot of positive reinforcement. That's why I came up with this term renology, kidney success. that changes absolutely everything. And my oncologist was the first one who said, don't use the term kidney failure. You're not close. You know, kidney failure is real, but I wasn't there yet. And she was so right. And so, you know, in time, got up to 36. Okay, I'm making good changes. Okay, now I'm up to the 40s. So I was seeing, yeah, it is possible. And I kind of had this stage 2 or bust. And my last go rounds with labs, my GFR is now 68 with one kidney. And I'd like to even see it further, but you know, I don't feel sick like I did.
Okay. I want our audience to understand you've never spent one day on dialysis. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Mm-mm.
You've never had a kidney transplant. Is that also correct?
No transplant. In fact, I'm not even eligible for one, they said, because of the nature of the abdominal surgery that I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
The EGFR that you mentioned, historically, there's a cutoff at 60 and full function is 120. But
Correct.
even at 60, that only represents what, about 50%
Exactly.
dysfunction already?
Exactly. And you know, the thing I learned, when creatinine just barely rises, that's already 20% loss.
And the other thing that
Yeah.
I noticed in your book that you mentioned, nephrology guidelines recommend primary care to manage CKD until your GFR drops to 30 before you
Yes.
can be referred to a nephrologist. Am I right about that?
I mean, there are people who go see the nephrologist, but to a nephrologist, if your GFR is, say, I don't know, 35, which I remember 35, I didn't feel that good. I didn't feel terrible, but I had a lot of sick days. But to the nephrologist who's seeing somebody on dialysis or a GFR of 10, you look fine. And so there's this relativity thing. And, you know, the nature of primary care, family medicine, to me is prevention. In fact, my residency was called Family and Preventative Medicine. I take that very seriously, and it's really about teaching people how to avoid hurting themselves in a world that can be pretty toxic. And and so that's the stuff that's lacking. I mean, and even the last nephrologist I went to see, because now I'm working with my primary care doctor, who actually is a cardiologist as well, um, basically said to me, "Why are you even here?" At that point, I had gotten my GFR up to 51, and I was like, "Go team! Nothing.
Yeah.
Why are you here? We don't want to see you until your GFR is under 30." And I was kind of devastated. I mean, I had to drive an hour, take a flight, take a taxi, and why am I even here was very disturbing. It was very upsetting to me, and I realized I need to find the kind of care that's addressing me in my current moment, not, oh, I just saw somebody with a GFR of 20 and you look fine. What are you complaining about? Because that's not medical care. That's something else, I think.
Neglect.
Yeah, yeah.
Neglect. So your kidney journey started in 2013. That's 12 years ago.
Yeah, yeah, it's
And
been a while.
your GFR is well above the number that people start to get concerned with starting dialysis,
Oh,
the
yeah,
process of perhaps preemptive kidney transplant or transplant in general. Can,
absolutely.
can you
And that,
explain to us how did a plant-based diet help you?
one thing I want to say, I love offering this statistic. Here's one statistic: stage 3, 7 million; stage 4, 400,000. Those people did not die of kidney disease, they died of cardiovascular issues. So early kidney disease is fraught with comorbid problems. Other illnesses get exacerbated, get blown into major problems and take people out. So that's important to know, that things that are happening early don't always lead to dialysis. If you don't make it to dialysis and you die from something else, it was still because of kidney. Because kidney, like when I learned kidney causes 30 to 100 times intensified cardiovascular risk. I was like, wow, hello, I want to know about this. So the diet, there's a lot of reasons that plant-based protein is helpful. For one thing, the nitrogen. So there's that. Limiting the amount of protein helps with that. Animal protein is acidic. Kidney disease also makes the body very acidic. That's that acid-base balance. And what happens with too acidic is inflammation, insulin resistance, so diabetes, immune system compromise. All of these things are root causes of so many things. Your list is long. And so knowing how to attend to the inflammation, to the acidosis, easy and naturally with self-choices, seems like a no-brainer. Did to me. I was like, it's just food. I want to eat what will make me grow into a healthy body. The other thing is phosphorus, which is kind of neglected, I think, in stage 2 and 3, particularly. The interesting thing about stage 2, which I will tell you in renology, stage 2 is not normal. Greater than 60, it's not like, okay, you're going to die and be on dialysis any minute. No, you're going to have health decline that you can deal with and reverse. And there's not a lot of scarring. The fibrosis of kidney disease doesn't happen so early. So you can actually reverse injury to the little pieces of the kidney, that the nephrons can actually get repaired. So phosphorus doesn't look abnormal early on. The range is 2.5 to 4.5 milligrams per deciliter. You see it on labs. But with kidney disease, 3.5 and above, what we know is it's pulling calcium out of the bones and putting them in the arteries. Two things that we know in later kidney disease are very bad problems. The bone disease is real. Atherosclerosis is killer. It harms everybody in that way. And so there's things to do early. One of them is to maintain a more realistic phosphorus intake. And, part of plant-based diet is health foodie stuff. No, with the sugar. No, with the junk food. Synthetic phosphates in food are the worst. So meat and animal proteins, you absorb about 80% of the phosphorus in it. We need phosphorus to live, but if it gets too high, there's that hormesis. I love that terminology. There's a safe range, and then there's too little and too much. And we want to find where's the right amount to stay in balance, in homeostasis. And so the plant proteins come with their very own phosphorus binders called phytates. It's just part of plants. And they bind up phosphorus, and so you only absorb 40% of the phosphorus in plants. And that's a leg up, and that's a benefit. Again, the bicarbonate will help keep phosphorus under control. The diet is way more alkaline. Plants are just alkaline in nature. And so there's that. There's so many little factors that are part of keeping healthy with kidney. Nitric oxide is one. Nitric oxide comes from plants like beets, which might have too much oxalates and might have too much potassium for some people. Arugula is a wonderful food for kidney patients. It took me a while to decide I liked it. It's so healthy. It's so useful. I'm growing it. I have, you know, it's part of the day to day. And it's really the attitude of joy in the journey as opposed to, oh, woe is me, which I've been there. It's not like, oh, I'm great with this. It's a struggle really to find the joy. And so I love to cook. I used to be a health food chef, so this is fun. How can I make beautiful kidney food that doesn't, torture other people who eat my food? They like my food. I love tofu. It's a great protein, really low phosphorus. It has some potassium, but not so much. And because you alkalinize, it actually balances that out. So, and I have a garden.
Okay. What are bioregulator peptides and how did they help you? How do they help people with kidney disease?
Well, I can't help myself. I'll give your audience a little view of this beautiful cover.
There's the book.
There's the book. It's a beautiful artwork from a Ukrainian artist. Um, I first learned about peptides kind of inadvertently, to be honest, in a Facebook group. One of my Facebook friends is a PhD pharmacist and PhD nutritionist. I had learned about nitric oxide, and like oxygen, it is essential to the body. And in kidney disease, there's a lot of pathways that damage it, so it's really low. It does amazing things. What I've learned from Beth Shirley about nitric oxide is incredible. But the thing to really put in your mind is it causes vasodilation, which means circulation. Nitric oxide getting to the allowing the blood to get to the kidney means filtration can happen more effectively. So I was having trouble getting my level up. And I overheard her tell somebody else about BPC 157, which is a peptide called body protection complex. And I did one of these, like, what are you talking about? Okay, insulin is a peptide. Many of our hormones are peptides. Proteins are very big, folded up, useful items in our body. We can't live without them. Peptides are like one little fragment of the big proteins, and they're the active part of a protein. So if you have like a big thing and it all folds up, that piece might be the one that's actually creating the chemistry that's causing the process that we need. So I got into the bigger peptides. They have to be injected, just like insulin does. And I am a tried and true needle phobe, to be honest. And so when I heard about the bioregulatory peptides, which are oral, it caught my attention. An enormous body of research from Russia, where they have originated from. And here's the cartoon. They're tiny. They're 2 to 4 amino acids. So, on this fragment of, it's like maybe the nail, teeny little things. They actually can get through the cell membrane without needing receptors. Makes it a chemically easy journey. They get in the nucleus. Then they actually lodge in DNA. They stretch open the DNA and they work with the histones, which take our genes, life being toxic. We talk about epigenetics. Epigenetics means your genes get messed with just enough that they're not working properly. Perhaps they're not producing proteins that our bodies require. So these things get in there and they reduce the epigenetic damage. In fact, they'll say, bringing you back to factory settings. That got my attention. I was like, what? There are many. They go by different organ systems. They're kind of like the old time glandulars, only highly evolved science took the glandulars and refined them to a point where they're really precision medications. And they're available as supplements, which is interesting. They're very safe. The body recognizes them as self. So all of this appealed to me in my kidney paradigm of don't put anything in your body that's going to hurt. And I was fortunate enough to reach out to some of the longtime researchers. One, a Greek physician who's an older man who's been doing this for many decades, and he introduced me to the wife of the man who discovered these, a Russian pediatrician, and she basically offered me some mentorship and support. And I just started doing a deep dive. How are the brain bioregulators related to kidney? So in the book, I have the kidney brain axis because there's a lot of effect when kidney declines, it affects the brain. Brain diseases will affect kidney. So you can step in and do something before tragedy. And that's what I like about this. If you're attuned to decline, even if it's subtle, there's things to do, and they're safe things to do. You know, I mean, when we use some medications, there's dangers, there are side effects. You have to do it. I mean, when you get really sick, we're obliged. And yet, you know, in my kind of early bird primary care mindset, how can I find this stuff early? And reverse it. And your list of questions, I love the idea of primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention. I learned that years ago. Primary prevention means you're fine, but all right, maybe, you know, your parents had some health issues you don't want. So you start doing healthy stuff just to be healthier. Secondary prevention, you already have a diagnosis. So you're doing what you can to keep that from progressing. And that's a lot of what renology is about. Tertiary prevention is when, say, someone has had a stroke, they're disabled, but there's still preventive things to do to get some improvement. And I love that because you can find where you are in this. So you can use these bioregulator peptides as primary prevention. And they're used like that for longevity support, meaning we don't know what's going on at a cellular level. You know, we don't know what's declining. I mean, you know, all right, I'm tired. What is that? Who knows? And so, you know, by doing these health supporting things, maybe something you didn't even know was broken will repair. You know, people tell me, wow, I feel so much better. I feel like I have a new lease on life. And so I just started looking. There's eye bioregulators, pineal and thymus, which we really don't deal with in conventional Western medicine unless you have a tumor. Incredible connection with kidney and the thymus. And the pineal, especially because melatonin is created by the pineal, and also the kidney has its own form of melatonin, which is an immune system support. It's been sold as a sleeping pill, so to speak, but it really is about the immune system. And so as I kept researching all of these different ones, thyroid, liver, lung, heart, blood vessels, adrenals, pancreas, stomach, muscles, bones, parathyroid, testis, prostate, ovaries. All of these things have a relationship with kidney. And so the art of it really is to figure out how to bundle these. And when I see people and do consults, I'll realize, okay, this person has a bit high PTH, parathyroid hormone. We'll add the parathyroid bioregulator. I've seen things normalize. You know, it wasn't terrible. I mean, if it's really, really, really bad, you might want to do the pharmaceuticals and do bioregulators because they work well together. They don't fight each other. They actually make the pharmaceuticals even more effective. That's what the clinical research from the Russian clinic has shown, and their studies are enormous. I mean, I've referenced many, many, many in the book, but anyway, it's been a real boon. And here's the thing: they don't work if you eat bad, you sleep bad, you don't exercise, you're in a bad mood all the time, blah blah blah. You, it, it's not like this wonder pill, and I can do what I want. it really is kind of the cherry on top of the effort take to find that higher level of wellness.
Okay. Can you please explain the concept of renology to us?
Absolutely. So, like I said, the oncologist told me don't use the term failure, which I appreciated. She was very supportive at the mind body level. You know, the limbic system is part of our brain that talks to the body. And so when you get stuck in limbic system negativity, the, the body chemistry reacts to that. And that's part of why I did this. I basically, well, nephrology I was seeing was saying, people don't know what the word renal means, so we're going to get rid of it. And so I said, okay, I'll take it and use this term as primary care kidney medicine. That is a more regenerative, more reversal mindset of kidney success. Because, I mean, I know I'm in stage 2. I'm not free of decline, of illness. I mean, you know, like I got a stomach bug a couple weeks ago, and I was sicker than I would have expected. It took me a longer time to repair. That's part of stage 2. So, you know, it's really a lot about stage 2 medicine. And I'd love to address I kind of have a handful of things. In stage 2, the tubules are really important, and we don't have labs yet. I'm compiling some information right now for lab work, urine tests that we can do that'll tell us there's a problem, even before the GFR says so. And so protecting the tubules means knowing about the mitochondria, knowing what inflammation is going on. Endothelial health, the lining of our blood vessels, can be attended to by various means. Dysbiosis, how's the gut microbes doing? There are healthy ones that protect us, and there are unhealthy ones that inflame us and make us sick. Um, what else do I have on that list? And that's a pretty good list. And so we have a lot we can do for ourselves in stage 2 to avoid all of that. Toxins are a huge one. And my research continues with looking at how are the tubules damaged by things that are commonplace in our world, unfortunately.
Okay. If renology is the art and clinical science of kidney success, can you please explain in simplest terms what you mean by kidney success?
Absolutely. Um, how can I say? Feeling okay. Feeling like I'm on the right trajectory. I mean, I remember the feeling of kidney failure. I was in decline. I'm little, but I weighed 82 pounds. That felt like failure. I felt like I was losing ground. And so kidney success means that homeostasis, that my buoyancy is there, my vitality is there, my labs look better, my mood is better, my executive function to achieve what I want to achieve is engaged successfully.
Okay.
Like that.
True or false, if CKD patients fail to receive timely and effective treatment in the first to third stages of CKD will progress to end stage chronic renal failure, uremia, and a complete loss of renal function.
I love that question. My husband and I actually discussed this because, on one hand, I could say yes. But on the other hand, remember what I said is there's this drop off from stage 3 to stage 4. So they might not get to failure. And yet, intervention in stage 1 to 3 is critical to prevent those who are going to get further advanced or those who are going to die because their kidney function contributed to other pathology.
Okay.
That makes sense. I mean, it's sort of both answers are true, but there's no reason to neglect this. We don't, I mean, since we don't neglect that half your heart function isn't working. Don't worry, we'll see you when you're having a heart attack. I mean, that's not medical care. That's crazy.
Okay. Please discuss the differences between renal replacement therapy and renology.
Well, I think renology is equally appropriate for more advanced kidney cases. So there's always something to do in a preventive mode, like the secondary and tertiary prevention. But really, the difference of those two is early strategies versus later strategies. And we all know that when people are progressed stage 4 and into stage 5, they're very fragile. Some of the things that I recommend for people to do in earlier stages, they can't do in the later stages. They can't tolerate it. It's too harsh. And so, we start early, and that's phrenology. Even if somebody does get to dialysis, there are patients who can get better and get off dialysis. It's not as common as I'd like to see, but I think it would be wonderful if we, wove that into our expectations. And, the street, the word on the street is you can't get better. I was told that repeatedly, and I really had to just do that thing. It's like I can't allow that. I need to maintain this idea that I'm capable of healing. And so that's the mindset of renology, is that concept of success, that I can succeed. And even, how can I say, even if somebody's on hospice, there are things to do to improve the ambiance of life. So there's always something to do in that regard. But, Renology's claim to fame really is stepping up early and avoiding the inevitability that you will need renal replacement.
Okay. You mentioned to us how bioregular peptides can help to repair your DNA. How does that relate to premature aging and chronic kidney disease? Can premature aging be prevented?
I think so. I mean, I think, the thing to know about kidney disease, the word progeria. It's like you see these pictures of these like 19-year-olds who look like they're 90. It's like very advanced aging. Kidney disease is referred to as a progeric condition. In other words, normally people age, okay, we expect to get older. With kidney, it's more rapid aging. So all of these things that come from the longevity community, the nutritional support and the meditative anti-stress support, the exercise and sleep and, oral health, I mean, all of these things have very direct effects on modulating kidney decline, which means slowing it down right off the bat is anti-aging. Reversal, if, like every step of the way where there's some improvement, it's amazing, and it does put the brakes on that accelerated aging. And so, the thing is it doesn't change the genes; it changes the effects of damage to the genes. It reactivates them. So they're the same genes that have always been there, but whatever happened blocked them from being able to produce the proteins that they make. And so that's really the bioregulator miracle. And there's other ways to do bioregulation, to reclaim function. This is the most impressive that I've ever seen.
Okay. please talk to us about what is a leaky gut in chronic kidney disease? What does that mean?
Yeah, well, I addressed it a little bit. Nowadays everybody has heard about dysbiosis, and we know that there's more bacteria in our bodies than there are cells of human cells. I think it's like 10 to 1, something like that. And so, ultimately, oh, here's somebody showing up. Um, Ultimately, sorry, I'm getting distracted. Forgive me. So, uremia, as we know, is the production of chemicals that can harm the gut microbes. And what that means is, so, here's the colon, a long tube. The cells are very tight, but the uremic toxins, that could be phosphorus, it could be stuff you're eating, it could be stuff that you've breathed in that ends up in the bloodstream and then in the colon. It gets loosened up, and these chemicals jump through. That's leaky gut, and it gets into the area where there's blood vessels. These toxins get in the blood and go to kidney, and when they do that, there's havoc. It can be havoc to the glomerulus itself. It can be havoc to the tubules. The surrounding tissues get scarred up. This is serious stuff. And so the dysbiosis can be attended to. It's stuff that now in medicine we know about. And it's more time consuming. And that's part of the problem is you got to spend time with your patients to achieve these things. It's not just, yeah, you should change your diet, go see the dietitian. For me as a physician, I want to spend the time. How are you feeling about what you're eating? What are the economic problems? Blah, blah, blah. And so learn how to make fermented foods. It's amazing. And it's one of the best ways of having probiotics. So probiotics are healthy bugs. Sort of think about yogurt, the lactobacillus in there gets into it gets somehow, and I don't really understand how this is, but it gets through the stomach into the colon and populates, and it keeps the unhealthy ones out. And when that's happening, vitamins are being made. Inflammatory cytokines can't happen as much. We all, after COVID, everybody knows about cytokines, but with kidney, there's a lot of cytokine agitation in the body. And by keeping the gut microbes in a healthier state, that's very much improved. So things like fatigue, you know, almost everybody with kidney disease tells me, I just have more fatigue than I like. Dealing with inflammation helps with that.
Okay. I've noticed in the news recently that there's a lot of discussion about microplastics and the effect they have on our health.
Yeah.
What are microplastics in chronic kidney disease?
Well, there's a chapter in the book about it. And I'm glad because it has become a big topic. You know, look around. Like I'm sitting here, I see plastic around me, and I'm pretty diligent. I mean, I try really hard. They're in our food. They're in the ocean, they're in the air, they're everywhere. And unfortunately, they get in our body again, sort of as a uremic toxin, and damage the kidney tubules. And once that happens, so what that means, the tubules are this gorgeous set of tubes that discern. There's transporters all along these tubules. So it decides, am I keeping sodium or am I throwing it out? And some stuff that we're supposed to keep, all of a sudden we're throwing it out. So, if microplastics are causing all of that, the downstream effects of this misguided transport, it's serious. It's a lot of illness and suffering. And so get rid of the plastic bags as much as you can. I wrap vegetables, and I found in my sewing room, I found a big piece of linen, cut it into pieces. We wrap our vegetables up. I got rid of the plastic containers that I was putting food in the refrigerator, put it in glass. I have a closet full of ball jars. It actually matters. It matters what you cook on. It's more than the plastics, it's the heavy metals, it's the toxic linings on things, toxins in our clothing. They're saying, there's like microplastics in your laundry and it gets in the soil. So it's really interesting. It becomes kind of a passion, I call it renal detoxicology. It's like, how do I clear all this stuff and have some purification? Because that's one way to thrive with kidney. And so you get to be kind of stubborn. I don't want, I mean, I used to love to paint. I have somebody else do it now. There's sacrifices, sacrifices on the altar of health, I call this. And it's worth it. If you feel better, oh my God, let me tell you. I mean, you know this as well. When I was at my sickest, I felt like I had the flu. And I would spend sometimes 2 or 3 days just in bed, exhausted, fatigued, and felt like I was sick. I could do stuff on my computer, and that's when I started researching. But it's much more fun to get up in the morning and do some exercise and sing a song, sing some praise, thank the divine for this life, and be productive.
Okay. Let's talk about your book for a minute. Renology peptides, kidney success with the bioregulator peptides. How did that book come about? And if somebody wanted to buy the book, where would they go to purchase it?
It's Well, how I decided to do this is I had very grandiose ideas. I could write an encyclopedia with all the ideas I had. So I started thinning it down. Going, okay, other people have done this. What hasn't been said? And so it was really about what hasn't been said. And then I was going to do all these larger peptides, and I got overwhelmed. I realized this would take me forever to do it at the level that I wanted, the precision. I don't want it just to be like a biohacker book. I want this to be a medically responsible text for all of us to have access to. So first I was just going to do a materia medica. We'll put the bioregulators together, and here's why with kidney stuff. Then I realized, well, a lot of the stuff that in the first section, and there's 3 sections, the first one is kidney topics that really have to do with this thriving success, and topics that are all over the nephrology literature, but not necessarily discussed in the day-to-day kidney care. So I wanted to put that together. So I put that together. Then I realized people are going to say, well, what are these bioregulators anyway? So section 2 is really looking at what they are, how they work, what have been done with them, how do you combine them for success. And then the materia medica is the kind of the big chunk. I call it the tofu and potatoes of the book. And it goes through all of them, there's been different generations and some for historical understanding. And I'm seeing a new paradigm for kidney, which is, to include this idea of regeneration so that at whatever state or stage we are, we can do some improvement. And then I added appendix because I couldn't stop. So I decided not to. And I haven't stopped because on my website I'm blogging, and those would have been added on. I'm keeping on going. Um, the website is called renologyIsKidneySuccess.com. All one word, no punctuation. Keep saying that in your head. Kidney success. Renology is kidney success. Um, the book is available on the website. I chose not to go through Amazon and to just do this as a self-publish so that I could be as creative as I wanted to without any opinions other than the array of editors that I had help me, do some critiquing, and I got quite a bit of feedback, which was very helpful. And so, again, I'll show everybody. I love this artwork. I love the dancing DNA, and this fella is living in Poland because he can't live in his home, and so I was happy to be available to support him. But this is a reference. It's like it isn't a sit down in the evening and read the book kind of thing. It's close to 800 pages, but it's real. I mean, I still use it as a reference. I look stuff up all the time. There's an index, and there's a load of references. And so I encourage people, keep going, keep looking. You can contact me on the website. I am putting the blogs that these talks that I'm doing are on there, and I've started blogging. I mean, some with simple stuff like, what about coffee? And I do the scientific deep dive, and here's the pluses and minuses, and here's why you would, and here's why you wouldn't. Cardamom is one of my favorite things. I love cardamom. So it was one of the first plants I looked up. Is this okay for kidney? Actually, it's good medicine. And so I planted some. My next book, I think, is going to be called My Kidney Garden, and look at all of the beneficials, kidney beneficials in my garden, including arugula. And we make fizzy, instead of soda, which no soda, we make these fermented fizzy drinks using things like begonia flowers and blue pea flowers. They're beautiful colors. It's kind of like the color of my ceiling. And, there's just so many things to be able to do. I didn't put all that in this book because it would have been, I mean, it was ridiculous already. It was too much. And I also didn't make the print so small that I couldn't read it. It's one of the things to know about kidney disease is it does contribute to eye decline. And sure enough, in the decade of me figuring it all out, I got cataracts. No more glasses. Finally, no more glasses. I wore them since I was 9. And, there are strategies to use early, and I didn't know about them. My husband was using peptide eye drops, and his eye pressures that had slowly started to rise, just slightly, normalized. That's the precious cycling of renology, is get it early. It's close enough, And what I found is that people who are really advanced, it's so much harder to make big changes. People don't feel good. It's like, this is just what I'm used to. It's like, yeah, but you're not used to feeling so sick. Let's tiptoe into some things. And so, it starts changing one thing at a time. What do I have in my cup? What am I drinking? Is it bad? Is it good? Okay, what am I eating for breakfast? Is it bad? Is it good? And in each step, there's a learning curve, and we end up gaining the insight that it becomes intuitive what to eat. It's just innate, this tropism that we have as biological organisms to want to be well. And when we don't, then we need to do some self-exploration. What are the negative mind states that are tripping me up? Because to be in a state of joy is actually a physiology that's positive. To be angry causes some issues. Hey, if I'm angry, let me talk about it. Let me journal about it. Let me dance it out. Let me do something, go for a swim in the ocean to release that, because it is a toxic state and I can be my own toxin.
Okay. I just want to remind my audience, as is my custom, this broadcast is pinned to the top of my Facebook page, Jim Myers, Myers, and all my research is in the comments to the broadcast. So I know that some of these things with websites and web addresses are scrolling by kind of fast. All that material is in that research in the comments. So if you need to look that up later, you can find it there. Doctor, in your opinion, what is the future for Renology peptides?
I would like to see it become more commonplace. I'd like to see more doctors be aware of these tools. And I'd like to see prevention be as important as dialysis. And so I'm hoping that people are happy to buy this book. It's not the cheapest book. I was advised to charge many hundreds more for it and refused. So it was challenging at that level. I've had some complaints, but then once people say, all right, I'll do it anyway, and they're like, oh, I'm hoping that we all get smarter together and that we basically can see that we cannot afford to dialyze everybody with CKD. And, we know the statistics are already, 15% of the population, and that doesn't include stage 2. So then we know, oh my God, this is even more of a challenging issue. So I want to see that. I want to see that change. I want to see people not struggle so much because of this diagnosis.
Okay. Do you have any final statements that you would like to make to our audience tonight before we conclude the broadcast for the evening?
Um, yeah, the idea of kidney success is kind of a spiritual practice, really, to open your body, mind, soul to the optimism of kidney success, the hope of kidney success. The hope for me is that it'll guide people to the willingness to do what they need to thrive and to ask for guidance. I did that. I asked for guidance. Give me guidance. How do I find what I need? And how do I discern? So maybe it's success and discernment. I call it being a kidney yogi instead of a kidney warrior, because I want peace and I want peace in my body. So
Okay.
I wish everyone peace in their body.
No, thank you, doctor. Just an amazing broadcast. I learned so much listening to you and being exposed to your website, and of course reading through your book to the extent that I'm not a medical person in my training, but I did learn a lot from reading the book, and I appreciate you taking time to come on and talk with us and give us a little guidance, and boy, a whole bunch of new concepts to discuss with my kidney friends.
Oh,
So
thank you. And
appreciate
people
that.
need to know, you can reach out to me on the website.
That's right. It's very easy. It's a fill in the form kind of thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
if you need to contact Dr. Rose, it's pretty simple to do. And as I said, the link to that website, in case it's scrolling by too fast, is in the comments to my broadcast, and it's pinned to the top of my Facebook page, and it'll be there all week. So
Nice.
you should be able to find it. And of course, if you go to my
Renology is
YouTube
kidney
channel, you can find
success.
this broadcast anytime.
And keep saying it. Renology is kidney success. And then I will.
Great. Well, I thank you for taking time, Doctor. I have a few things
Sure.
to button up with my audience. I've kept you over an hour. I
My
appreciate
pleasure. Thanks.
you taking time. I will make sure to put together a replay for this broadcast, and I'll send you the link to that so you can add it to your website or do with it whatever you wish.
Thank you.
And again, I want to say thank you for educating and enlightening all of us.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you. I mean, what you're doing is stunning, and it's what we all need. And we're doing this together. We're a community, and I'm here to be supportive and available. I can't do consults for everybody who needs me, but I'm sort of working to get some of my doc colleagues to know and do what I do. So thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's
thank you
all.
so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So At any rate, that you can be excused if you wish, Doctor.
All right.
That's
Thank you.
our
I say aloha to everyone.
aloha. All right. Thank you for watching. That's our broadcast for this evening. Next week on May 16th, our guest is a new kidney advocate in the kidney space. His name is Dan Holmes. He's a veteran, a remarkable kidney advocate. Lots and lots of material out there that Dan's putting out, all good stuff. So we're going to talk to Dan next week and get up to speed with what's going on with him. So I thank everybody for tuning in and watching, and watch this space because I'll be back with Dan next week. So I appreciate you taking time, and you have a good week. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. Thank you for watching.